How can the startup landscape in Germany and Europe be described and compared to the USA and China? And what changes could make Germany more presentable for entrepreneurs?
Yeah, they're quite different, the ecosystem. And funny enough, the US ecosystem was basically born out of the moon mission because there was a lot of capital. Smart people took that capital and developed something like the chip infrastructure we have today, the software and so on. And from there, the Silicon Valley grew. So it's a super strong, very, very established ecosystem. And of course, then with a lot of money, because when there was success, there was the first exits, a lot of money. So China is built from the government, for better or worse. The government says, okay, we want to have quantum computing, we want to have whatever AI, and then just pour in money. So the European ecosystem is quite different, and it's lacking behind because it was later that we also started to have a kind of a real ecosystem. So the Zamba brothers, for good or worse, started that ecosystem from Berlin, and then slowly it grew. We had some great founders out of Paris and then in the Nordics. And what we have, I believe, especially in Germany, are super strong universities. So we have the TUM, we have Aachen, and then in Netherlands, Delft, for example, Karlsruhe. So we have some great universities, but what we lack is then bringing the power to the street, so really building then great companies out of that. So we have great research, we have great universities, but we lack then the execution in building outstanding companies. And the result is that when you look at the main ecosystems, like, for example, of course, cloud, music, video, AI, whatever you have as basic technologies, none of the important companies come out of Europe. Maybe Spotify and the music, but so all of those big players, they come out of the US or China. And that's a huge problem. So we have smart people, we have the ambition, but we lack the experience and the capital to then really build 100 billion plus companies, which is important because then more people earn more money, more capital into the ecosystem and so on. And so we have to really catch up in Europe.
And how do investors evaluate potential investments and the correlated founding teams?
I mean, that really depends on the type of investor so how do you invest? So I can, for example, start with Freigeist Capital. That's our seed fund where we do venture capital, and we are a strange animal. So we only invest our own capital, so we don't have LPs, limited partners, other partners that are normal VC funds, and we only do 1 to 2 deals per year because what our strategy is to really kind of co-build the company with the founders. So we have a lot of experience for many decades to build startups, and then we go in and write code, we design, we do sales, we set up HubSpot or whatever, all those things. So that's our model how to do venture capital. And then of course there are many different other ideas like the Atomicos, Lakestars of the world that do the big series Bs, Cs, later stage and so on. So there are many different strategies how a venture capital firm work.
What makes Freigeist Capital more successful and different compared to other venture capital firms?
Yeah, first of all, why it's maybe easier for us to be successful because the returns over the last 25 years have been quite good, is that we invest not a lot of capital. Because the moment you invest more capital, it gets harder to have great returns. So it's a little bit unfair because we invest only 1 to 2 deals per year and not a lot of capital. But the capital that we invested brought great returns, and it is because we have been entrepreneurs ourselves. So we have been in the trenches and really, I even went insolvent with my companies. We have lost customers, we have lost teams, and it's so important to understand what's really going on. I don't believe in that you say, okay, we have a general strategy, we have some smart financial guys that say, okay, now we invest in cybersecurity, but they never developed a firewall themselves or understand really like what is a kernel, what is a OSI reference model, so how does the whole networking work. So we're pretty much hands-on. We built the companies, and this has been led to great results so far.
And what advice would you give young founders or people who are aspiring to be a young founder? And especially, what are some of the big issues they face in the beginning?
Well, first of all, founding a company is very, very tough. And the first advice that I would give is don't follow kind of a hype and say, hey, I want to be a founder, and I just start and say, hey, I want to be rich and I want to be on TechCrunch and so on, because most of the startups fail. And honestly, as Elon said, building a company is like eating glass. And he's absolutely right. And even today, my day-to-day things that land on my desk are quite challenging. Most of the time, it's really burning shit. And something where I'm so happy and proud of what our founders are building that it's fine for me to cope with that. But you have to have that mission, something that drives you and say, I want to build that company. I really want to make sure that hospitals are run more effectively. I really want to make sure that millions of people have better food. Whatever is your mission. But you have to be ready to really make this the first priority in your life. Don't think about vacations. Don't be ready to really work crazy hard, to be pushed back, to have many, many missteps, and still fight for your mission. That's the starting point to start a company. If the starting point is what we see, especially was part of a TV show called Shark Tank or Dragon's Den in the UK, and there were so many founders that just wanted to start and say, hey, it's so funny, I want to build a great startup. One founder even said to me, I want to work less. So that's why I want to build a company. And that's true. I mean, it's a true story. And that's why for me it's so important, because it's good that we talk more about startups. It's good that we have many great stories, that we have TV shows like Shark Tank and Dragon's Den. But maybe it's a little bit over the top, because the reality still of founding a company is eating glass. And are you ready to do this?
Are there topics every single young founder or founder in general should learn and have a deep understanding in?
It really depends on what are you building. So what a founder needs to be capable of is finding the right people to get them into the team. So that's something that you have to do. If you're building a tech startup, I believe you have to understand the tech really deeply. For example, we invested in a company called Lilium Aviation, and they're building an electrical plane. And the founder, Daniel, did construct the plane and really understands every single detail of that plane. So today, there are over 1,000 people working on the Lilium jet, so he's not in charge of every single cable, but he has the understanding and he kind of created the plane. And that's important. When you look at Zoom, for example, when we look at the founder of Zoom, he really understood the networks and how to set it up in a way that it scales. Or, of course, if you look at Elon with Tesla, he understands the electric car, the batteries and everything. So I believe that's really critical. So understand who do you have to bring on board. So people judgment, and then understanding the core of your business. This could be a plane, this could be chemics, this could be whatever, but understanding the core of your business better than anybody else in the beginning. And of course, as you grow, you got even deeper experts into your team.
And why are media like podcasts or social media channels like Instagram valuable for funds and investors, and how can they be most effectively used?
Honestly, social media is just amazing because you have access to so many people and niches where you want to say, okay, I'm now raising a Series A in this, who has experienced this as well. And of course, you can't see this on TV, you can't read it in a book, because not so many books are written, but podcasts and videos and so on, there's so many that you really have this deep access to exactly the topic that you want. And people that are normally not accessible, the superstars, they now can become very close if they use social media, because they post every day or every single day, or they just sometimes put out random thoughts and take the smartphone and say, hey guys, you know what, I'm currently thinking about AI, whatever. And I'm an older guy, so I have gray hair, and I still remember when Dropbox was kind of a really lighthouse startup for us, because he was building the company, big fundraising, everybody was using Dropbox. And it was the first time that I saw a founder just while waiting or being on the plane, just talked 1 hour in very bad video quality, his random thoughts into a smartphone and then put it on YouTube. And basically, I could sit beside this outstanding founder, take all his experiences in, and this was like, of course, for me, like super great to be that close to at this time the total leading guy in that industry. And that's why I believe social media and all those podcasts and so on, they're just a blessing for everybody, on the one hand. On the other hand, you have to see that, especially for people with not a high education level, it can be a drug. Because social media is built in a way that we get more and more engaged. And people then sitting there, TikTok is kind of the best company at this worst thing, to keep people into the screen and just flicking through random things that don't bring real value. So Naval, who has a great podcast and there's a great book about him, says less social media, more books. I believe you could also say less short-sighted TikTok-style social media, but more deep social media, where you go into a topic, where you are part of an important discussion.